welcome back to the Grieving Sisters. I'm Jessica.
I'm Elizabeth.
And today we have Nalda. We have a special guest, and we're using Riverside as always for our, cross-country, platform for our interview. And, I just wanted to thank you, Nalda. Obviously, she's going to get into who she is and what she does. And, we were just discussing how we were just fairly new into the podcast game, talking about grief, and we just couldn't believe, like, already immediately that somebody wanted to put us,
as a resource.
Yeah. We were just like, wow, we're
like,
hey,
somebody, we're doing it.
We're doing something. Yes.
Well, you came across my feed, and I love your conversations, and I love your chemistry. Like, you have really good chemistry, and what's not to like, what's not to appreciate, about what you do. You have really very deep conversation about the way that grief affects our lives, everyday lives, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty new too. The Grief Hub has been around for, it's been about a year, but I think it's important to have, like, a representation of all sorts of, losses.
Right. Is that what inspired? Would you be able to tell our audience and, kind of give us your full name and what you do? Obviously, we know, right? And probably some of our listeners too, because, like, it seems like we're all, like, in this community, in this contact. We're, like, in a circle now. Like,
yeah, we are. And
we got a gang.
Grief
gang. Throw them up.
Yeah. It seems to be a pretty tight-knit community, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nalda Seidman, and I created the Grief Hub website and the Grief Hub community on Instagram. Now, the website, I launched it a year ago, and it's a place that holds, it's a hub, a central location for all types of grief resources. It has tools for anyone that's dealing with grief, whether they're in their first, few months or it's been years. There's tools and resources, and also a directory of grief support professionals for anyone, who needs that one-on-one. Right. It also has a list of organizations throughout the country that provide both virtual and in-person support. So all of that really is, what the Grief Hub is for people to find what they need to, to get through, the heavy days, to get through holidays, to have a sense, not being alone, because grief is very isolating. It's such a lonely experience. And really, like, I want people to know that they're not alone, and that there are so many resources out there to help them through this grief journey that we're all on.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think that you don't realize that these resources are out here unless you've ever had a reason, right? Like, if you're somebody who hasn't dealt with any sort of loss, you haven't even had to do research into this type of journey, and then all of a sudden you're hit with this grief and you're like, oh, where's the pages? Where's the groups? Where can I go? Are there meetings? How do I find, so I think it's so important that even if people can start spreading the word about Grief Hub, even with anticipatory grief, they can find it.
Yeah. I remember in those early, like the first few days and weeks, I wanted to know how to survive the loss of my son, Josh. So I lost my son, Josh, 3 years ago. It's been 3 years. Can't believe how.
So sorry. The time.
Yeah,
sorry for
so much.
Time
has gone slowly, but also really fast at the same time. It's such a weird thing. But I immediately, like the night that I got the horrible news, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. And I just instinctively like just grabbed my phone in the middle of the night and I Googled like, I don't know, like videos for like moms who have lost a child, and this TED Talk video came up, and I watched this woman talk about, her experience losing her child. And it had only been a year and a half, but she was on that stage, like talking, and she was breathing, and she was like alive. And I thought, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. And then I just wanted more of that. I wanted reasons to keep going, reasons to just, to keep living. And so I started combing through the internet and looking for those resources that are so hard to find because, like you said, it's like you don't know where to go unless it's happened to you. And when it happens to you, you're in such a state. I mean, most people don't have the time or the emotional bandwidth to get on the internet and do those searches. So that's why I created the hub, because I want to take all that work,
Right.
off of people's plate, because, there's so many things to do, planning, services, you're dealing with friends and family, like nobody has time for that. But also like maybe like years down the line, months or years, because everyone's path is different. Maybe in the beginning, it's not everyone is like me. Like not everyone's like Googling resources, but maybe there'll come a time, in their future where they're gonna feel ready, and there's gonna be a need for like, organizations or grief groups or whatever, or podcasts like your podcast.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did all the work so that people don't have to, so they can focus on their grief is
Yeah.
basically
And
why I
do
did.
you feel like there was, while you were putting all this stuff together and you were like kind of in the middle of your grieving, do you
Mhm.
feel like what is the most misunderstood thing about grief that you've seen? Like, while, right, because you're also kind of knowing a little bit of what people are doing when you're putting them the resource on your page,
Mhm.
and you're like looking at their social media, you're looking at their things. Is there anything that you feel like that was like misunderstood?
Within the community or outside of
Or
the
just
community?
period about grief, just about
Well,
grief,
I
maybe
think that,
personal.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of misunderstanding or surrounding grief, the grief process. And I think primarily it's that there's this misconception that grief um, progresses through these 5 well-known stages that we all know, right? And that in the end, you have this sense of closure and you're ready to move forward in life, right? And you close this door to your past with this person or persons. It's so far from the truth. It's messy, it's non-linear. Some days you actually feel like you're going backwards, like there are days where, I feel like, oh, I feel totally normal. I am very functional. I get a lot of work done. The next day, it takes me a while to get out of bed and I feel heavy. And, the anniversary of Josh's death is always like the whole month of March. I expect to have a lot of days where I really can't put a whole lot on me. And I just sort of account for that now. I know what to expect. I think that's something that it's surprising is that to me in that, I have come to the point where I can function relatively well, and but I have tools now to get me through those heavy days. And I say tools, I mean, sometimes it's just like doing nothing. Sometimes it's just listening to my body and just being in tune with what I need on that particular day, in particular moment, right? And sometimes, all right, shut my computer off, take a nap, or I crochet. It's like the best thing for like the best stress reliever. And I'll just like put on like a podcast that has nothing to do with grief. I like comedians, and Conan O'Brien's like my favorite, like non-grief podcast to listen to. And I just sit and I just crochet and crochet and crochet. And I think I just, that's just my self-soothing technique. But I have a lot of other ways to sort of manage. So while, I haven't like closed the door, I haven't experienced closure, I do have like a host, coping skills now that help me get through those moments. And that's all it is. It is just sort of navigating through grief the best way that I can on any given day, and just being in tune with what I need right now, And that's something that just came with time, and I just want to be clear that I didn't create this website in the first year or in the second year. This was something that in year one, I was just trying to survive.
I was just about to ask you, like, how was your year one?
This was not like in my brain, like at all. I could barely like put sentences together.
Truly in survival. That
yeah,
first year.
I wasn't thinking at all about all of this at all. Year two, I did start thinking about it, and I didn't have like the cognitive abilities yet because of severe brain fog. I had insomnia I still have insomnia, right? So that really like makes your brain feel fuzzy. I didn't have like the wherewithal to like put it all together. And when I moved here to Europe a year ago, I got on medication that helped me sleep, and all of a sudden it was like like the mental clarity like I've never experienced because I was resting, right? Because I finally got to sleep, and I started like, I don't know, like my brain just started working again, and I was able to implement all of the things that I wanted to, set in motion. And my website was really amateurish, I would say. It's a lot better now, I think.
Oh, she's saying in the beginning.
The
beginning, yeah. I mean, I created it myself, and it was just, I did the best I could, and I'm proud of what I did, but I've recently, hired, a couple of months ago, I hired a developer, and I just told him what my vision was and what changes I wanted, upgrade. And together we created just this beautiful, I'm very proud of the website. I mean,
beautiful.
And y'all look really good on it too. Like your podcast, the way it's like, yeah, like it just all looks really like polished and professional, and and all my resources look wonderful, including this wonderful podcast. So I'm really happy with it.
I have a question. Did living abroad influence your grieving process at all?
Oh my gosh, yes. So the reason why we left the US, it was 5 months after we lost Josh, was because I really didn't feel like I was able to go back to work. I was a teacher, and I had a small business. I made soap, and I my life was really full, and I just couldn't see myself surviving the loss of Josh, my only child, unless I just gave myself time to really focus on feeling the grief, feeling the feelings. So my husband suggested, we were going to move anyway. And so my husband said, why don't we go to Costa Rica just for like 2 years? And at the time,
a lot of people are going to Costa Rica. I mean, listen,
I love it there. It was the last trip.
It was beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful country. And And basically, I just wanted to be alone. I wanted to be alone with my grief, and I wanted to give myself the time that my grief deserved, right? Because losing a child is horrendous. It destroys, it just decimates your life, on so many levels. And yeah, I mean, that initial year, I was lucky enough to not work and to really focus on myself and processing all of the conflicting emotions, all the guilt, all the things that I would, that come up. And that's what I did. I just, I joined a grief support group online that met 4 times a week. I was in therapy. I started a blog because I love to write, and I just needed to write about like what I was experiencing and my memories of Josh. And so, I didn't start that as a business. I wanted my grief to be witnessed. And so that was a way that,
Yeah.
that I felt like, okay, someone needs to witness what's happening to my life, like what's happened, and like my world just exploded. It just exploded. And I was, Costa Rica was just a place where I just ever so slowly started putting back the pieces of myself back together, right? So that's what that time did for me. As far as like traveling, we've moved out of necessity. Like, we realized that Costa Rica was just a stepping stone to something bigger. Like, after a year of just focusing on my grief, I felt like a little too isolated there. And so we wanted to move to a European city that was bigger and had more things to do, because I started to feel like I was ready to reintegrate myself into the world to an extent, to an extent. So we
Well, because
came
now you're
here
like
to,
a different person. You're like
yeah,
a whole different identity.
exactly. Yeah. So we came here, and, it's not like I'm mostly home. I just work. I work on finding resources, my website, all the things that I have to do for this community. And, but I have, when I want to, there's plenty to do here. And we do, like, in the summer, not the winters. The winters are really cold here. So, but in the summer, it's like, I feel like I have this energy, like in the spring, that just, like, I want to go out and I want to experience new things. And
That is such a East Coast, like, I mean, what
yeah,
you're describing is that we get that smell, right? It's like this summer smell, and
yeah,
we just want to be outside, not
right,
inside, outside for these streets. Like, it's just being out
Right.
there. It's a
yeah,
brunch, walking, just the crisp air, the hot air. Like,
It's so true.
you're speaking to my spirit, because I am, when the
yeah,
winter comes, you'll see me. After all the snow
yeah.
that we had too, you're lucky you even see me
I
in the
know
studio.
you've gotten a lot of snow. I know I've seen
Yes.
We've
it.
done a lot of
Yeah,
snow. Yeah. We've done a
yeah,
lot of episodes where we've came here in the snow, or we left it was snowing,
And we
or
had
we dug
canceled.
out our car that
Yes.
day. It was crazy.
Yeah. And
yeah.
then, like, we
I
also
mean,
had to cancel and push people out. And so, like, we're just playing catch up now.
Yeah.
Like, now we're
Yeah.
just like, oh my God. But I'm just grateful to even, thankfully you don't have any snow and you don't have to deal
no,
with
no,
it.
not here, but for me, like, winter is so difficult. Every year it has been, even before Josh died, and the
Sure.
winters, I got seasonal depression, and so the winters were always rough, especially when you're grieving, when we get a
It,
lot
like,
of
it
rain,
exacerbates.
a
Yeah.
lot of rain, a lot of overcast days, and without the sun, my gosh, I just feel heavy, and I don't want to go out. I'm much more of a homebody than I ever was. I mean, working from home has really changed aspect of my life, where I used to, go out and teach, and then on weekends we did markets, and I loved my social interactions. I'm a very extroverted person.
Yeah.
Now Yeah, not so much. I do like
Yeah.
it energizes me to be around people, but I have to do it in very small doses. My tolerance for socializing and doing anything, it does get better in the spring though. Like when, we
Same.
don't get snow, but it's like when the sun hits my face in the mornings, and I just start to feel this sense of renewal. I just want to go out and, and do things and be active, even if it's just to go for a walk in the park. So
Right.
it's nice. I like come out of my little cave, but after like a long dark
That's
season.
how I feel like it's like like we're like a cocoon.
Yeah,
And then like
exactly.
we go like a
It's like, I
butterfly.
think it's like the animals come out and you start to, I don't know, for me, everybody feels like they see signs in different ways. And I
Hmm.
always
Yeah.
feel a little bit more connected to the other side in like summer and spring when there's so much life and so many animals and butterflies. And I start to be like, is that
Ah.
you? Is that you? Is that
Oh
you? Like to
yes,
every girl,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it's like, it's for you, like
Yeah.
nobody can really understand that. It's like something for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to see a lot of little bunnies, and I always thought, there's Josh, like bunnies and like you said, like butterflies and hummingbirds and red
Yeah.
cardinals when I lived in North Carolina.
All the red
So many red
cardinals.
Yeah.
cardinals.
So it's so rewarding to see that, like, you also think when you see like birds or butterflies or signs of spring, that you feel like it's a sign from the other side,
Yeah.
right? From the ones that we've loved, passed on, And so me and Jess, what I was saying earlier was that I've seen my sister and her husband pass together. And so sometimes when I see birds that you can really tell it's a male and female, like cardinals, they really look
Yeah.
different. I always like think it's them,
Yeah.
or
Beautiful.
feel like it's a little nod to them. And like, so when it's winter and there's nothing out and you're kind of stuck inside and the curtains are drawn because it's cold, you kind of miss out with that little connection of
Right.
other
Well,
forms of
with
life
nature, right?
with
Like with
nature.
nature,
Nature,
right?
that's
And nature
right.
with spirit,
Yeah.
emotion, the energy, right?
Yeah.
The energy of it all. And I also feel like, like with my brother was just more like the white feathers, the
Mm,
dimes.
yeah.
Like sometimes again, right? The birds, they're like come in and they're like looking in and they
Yeah, when
look
they
in
look through
Yeah.
the window.
and they're looking in,
Yeah.
seeing what's going on, and they're like, why you not feeding me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause I usually have my daughter has like a little bird feeder she made at Home Depot, and like we bought them,
Oh,
and she's like, "It's time to fill it. It's time to fill
we
it
gotta fill
because the birds are hungry." And I was like, "All right, we'll
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I'll fill it."
I hear them. I hear the birds now a lot. It's really nice. Well, we
Yeah,
had like 3 days of nice weather and then it
yeah.
went back
It
to
went from
snow.
Oh my
80 to
gosh.
30,
Oh
80
no.
to 30
80
degrees.
to
It's
snow.
a
Yeah,
never-ending winter. It's so
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
strange.
don't
so
miss that
strange.
about living in
You
New
miss it?
York. Not at
I was
all.
about to
Yeah,
say,
Not at
I mean,
at the
all.
same
besides the
time.
food, but like, yeah, the weather over here is
It
crazy.
is. Yeah.
I do have a
Yeah.
question for you. Like, what would you obviously, uh, grief has no timeline, and I feel that uh, um, your timeline is much different than others,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, I lost my brother, so my mom lost her son. She lost her sister. Her mom lost a daughter.
Right.
I feel, and I think Liz always agreed with me with this, was that a parent should never have to bury their child.
Right.
It's always the other way around. Like that's the circle of life. That's the Lion King.
Right.
This is what we do.
It goes
It
against everything
it goes
inherent
against
and ingrained in us.
correct. Like I feel like it's unnatural. It's not a natural
Yeah.
thing, right? And although like we focus a lot on the grief, the sibling loss, I think the parent loss is so
It's magnified.
yeah, yeah. Like, because I feel like we went through identity
Yeah,
shifts.
yeah.
But I feel like even as my mom, although she has me, she has my sister, I just still feel she's like, as a mom, like I lost a child. So I lost a part of my motherhood, like identity a little.
Mhm.
Do
Sure.
you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm still discovering who I am, but that was why I couldn't go back to work. Like I didn't I I had to figure out who I am without Josh, because I questioned
Right.
like, am I still call myself a mother? Like, am I still Josh's mother?
Mhm.
And now, yes,
You
absolutely.
are.
Like,
Yes,
absolutely,
you
I'm
are.
Josh's mom.
Yes.
You know, I love saying I'm Josh's
Right.
mom. I talk about him like he's still
Yeah.
around. Like, I mean, he is around, but
Yeah,
like
love
he's still
we're just
alive.
far away from each other
Yeah.
right now. That's
Like
it.
he's
It's
just,
just,
you know, he's
yeah.
here, he's around me, and I feel him. I get like this like tingle on my head, like, you know, like it's like and I'm like, oh
Wow.
hi Josh, you know, I know he's around me, like so close. And you know, we've talked about the signs and I see all the signs, but yeah, it absolutely shattered my identity. And it made
Sure.
me feel like the out of order death just made me feel like disoriented. I just felt like everything was like upside down. You know, I was like, what is happening? What is this? Like, how do I even begin to move forward? Piece of
Right.
me is no longer here, not in the physical sense, you know.
Right.
So I think it's really important that we learn how to connect with our person, you know. Um, I think that that's the most important part of grief is maintaining, learning how to love that person differently, how to express your love.
Yeah.
And because they say like grief is love with no place to go, there are many
Mhm.
places for
Mhm.
it to go. You know, I don't
Sure.
really love that saying because I think that we have to learn how to express that love when there's no like not a physical person there to receive your love, your hugs. That's not there to answer your text or call you back and have those conversations with. Something that I did because I am a writer is I wrote letters to Josh. First thing in the morning, I took my journal out and I wrote to him. And it was a lot of like, what's happening? Like, well, what, you know, he died by suicide. And, you know, I knew exactly why he did because he grappled, like, he struggled with mental illness for 3 years and he was like so done, you know, with the medications, you know, the way that his life just exploded. And then he would have to pick up the pieces over and over and over. So, like, my experience with suicide is unique. And, like, I kind of like have, it's like, I wish he didn't take that route, but at the same time, I completely understand why he did. And there's no anger associated with his actions whatsoever, you know. But having
Thank you for
connection,
sharing
you
that. You
know,
really did
writing
not
to
have
him
to.
in the morning and every night, you know. And I was so used
Right.
to having conversations with him either through text or on the phone. Like all of a sudden that connection you think is severed for life, but it's not. You have to reestablish it
Yeah.
and you have to be like creative in different ways. Like if you see a butterfly, like what you said earlier, like that's like, oh, hi, Josh, like, oh, whatever. And then I start a conversation with him, you know, want to see a vendor, right?
Right. Just because they aren't here, right. Just because they aren't here in the
Right,
physical doesn't mean that you can acknowledge
right,
them in the spiritual.
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's newly grieving today?
I would say to make space for your grief. What that means is, you know, even if you're busy with work and responsibilities, like taking care of the kids and driving them to, you know, because life, you know, goes on, right? Um, Everyone goes off to like a remote island in Costa Rica to like, you know, I know that that's like an incredible privilege, but, um, you know, make time every day. I think grief needs dedicated time, right? Even if it's like 5 minutes out of the day to like read a reflection, you know, maybe listen to a podcast like yours, you know, like, read a book, read part of a book, you know, talk to someone, just spend some time just sitting in because it deserves our attention, right? And it deserves.
It's going to catch up to you one way or
I'm
another.
sorry, what?
the grief will catch up to you one way or
Exactly.
another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like that's the flip side of it. You have to either make time for it or it's going to make you make
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. And I knew that. I knew that instinctively, you know.
Right.
I worked for the 3 years that Josh was very, very ill. I just kept going to work. I had this smile plastered on my face because I worked with kids. Nobody knew what was going on. And I just knew I just couldn't keep doing, I just wasn't gonna
It was a
make it.
trigger.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's my advice, is to give yourself the time, any time day, but dedicated time, therapy, grief support, any little bit of time, because if we run from it, it'll catch up to us, like you said.
And what has helped you continue to pretty much go forward while honoring Josh?
Just knowing that as I move through life, I take him with me. Like, I share new experiences with him. Moving, and we're moving on April 5th. I'm always very weepy, and I 3 times in 3 years, and I hope this is the last one. But it's, when I visit new places, there's always a mix of melancholy and awe, because I'm seeing something beautiful. Moving is very difficult for me because I just really miss Josh. I just want Josh to be a part of this life that I'm living now. The thing is that he is with me, and I have to remind myself. So moving forward means including Josh in every aspect of my life, talking about him like this on social media, sharing about his life, just saying his name and keeping his memory alive, to me, the most important.
I
the
love
most
that. That's so
important thing.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yes.
Now, where can our listeners find the Grief Hub, or do they want to contact you to be put on the Grief Hub? How does that work?
Yeah, so
And
they
then,
can visit the website.
I
Yeah.
recommend.
At thegriefhub.net. My Instagram handle is the Grief Hub, at the Grief Hub, and there's a link to my website in the link in bio, so you can go through that as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nalda.
you.
Thank you
Pleasure.
for joining
Yeah.
us. Yes, and we really appreciate it. And thank everyone, all of our listeners, for listening to us. We are, streaming on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok. We everywhere.
You got them all.
I did. Because in my head, I'm just like,
How cool.
literally trying to check off everything.
And we'll link everything from
Yes,
the
we
Grief
will
Hub
definitely
as
link
well.
everything
So
as well.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I'm
That-
happy. And
Yeah, so that people, and we've always sent people, anytime that we associate, we're like, you got to get on the Grief Hub. So,
how
we
sweet.
got to get
Thank you. I
on the
appreciate
Grief
that.
Hub. Yeah, absolutely.
well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening.